A black belt joked about sparring with her, then hit the mat before he even blinked. Nobody in that gym had ever seen Jared McKnight hesitate. He was sharp, confident, built like a tank, and had a mouth that ran even faster than his fists. 6 days a week, he ran his MMA class like a boot camp with a smile, joking, shouting, sweating, pushing people past their limits. But on that Monday evening in Tempe, Arizona, something changed. It started like any other class. The regulars had filed in, rolled out their mats, laced their gloves, and started their stretches. The beginners hovered near the back, trying not to be noticed. Jared walked in late, sipping from his custom water bottle and calling out jokes before his shoes even hit the mat. And then he saw her. Tasha Bellamy. New girl, quiet, no gear, just an old pair of sweatpants and a plain gray t-shirt with the sleeves rolled up. She stood barefoot in the corner, arms folded, watching the room like she didn't belong, or like she didn't want to. Jared, a tall, broad-shouldered white guy with a booming voice and the kind of confidence you only earn after years of being the guy, cocked his head. "Hey, new girl, what's your name again?" She answered softly. "Tasha." The room kept moving, but a few heads turned. He grinned and waved her over. "You ever spar before, Tasha?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Just here to learn self-defense." Jared clapped his hands. "Perfect. That's what we're here for." He turned to the rest of the class. "All right, y'all, let's switch it up tonight. How about we start with something fun?" Some of the regulars chuckled. They knew what that meant. Jared pointed at Tasha. "Come on, Tasha, let's see what you got. Don't worry, I'll go easy." Half the class laughed, not in a mean way, just surprised. She looked like she hadn't lifted anything heavier than a grocery bag in months. A few of the guys smirked, expecting to see Jared fake a stumble, make a joke, and move on. Tasha stepped forward slowly, still barefoot, still calm. Her face gave nothing away. No smile, no nerves, just blank. Jared raised his hands playfully. "We're just messing around, all right? You don't gotta hit me. Just react." She nodded. "All right," he said, grinning. "Let's start slow." He reached for her shoulder. What happened next? Nobody saw it coming. In one seamless motion, Tasha shifted her weight, grabbed his wrist, pivoted at the hip, and flipped Jared clean over her shoulder. He hit the mat with a thud so loud, it made 2 people in the back stop stretching mid-rep. For a second, no one said a word, not even Jared. He blinked up at the ceiling, stunned. Tasha stepped back, arms loose at her side, breathing steady. Still no expression, no ego, no smile. Like she hadn't just floored a grown man twice her size in front of 30 witnesses. Someone in the back muttered, "Yo, what was that?" Jared sat up, coughing. "Hold up." He stood, brushed off his shorts, and faced her again. "Okay, lucky grab. Let's try that again." Tasha just nodded. This time, he was more careful. He stepped in with a jab feint, testing her. She deflected his arm with the back of her forearm, slid under his left side, and locked him in a quick shoulder pin before releasing him again. It was smooth, controlled, not aggressive, but intentional. Jared stepped back slowly. The gym went quiet. All that banter? Gone. Somebody finally said it. "Yo, who is she?" Tasha looked around. The silence made her more uncomfortable than the fight. "I didn't mean to hurt him," she said. "You said react, so I did." Jared held up his hand. "Nah, you didn't hurt me, but you definitely shocked me." He stepped toward her, smiling now for real. "You know, most people flinch. You didn't flinch." She finally cracked a half smile. "That's because I've been hit before." The silence thickened. The air felt heavier. Nobody laughed this time. But just as quickly, Jared spoke again, his tone lighter, curious now. "All right, now you really got to tell us your story." The rest of the class went on, but it wasn't the same. People were supposed to be drilling holds, practicing footwork, staying sharp. But instead, they were sneaking glances across the mat at Tasha, trying to figure her out without being obvious. Even Jared couldn't let it go. He kept glancing over at her as he circled the room, coaching others. His usual loud, animated energy had toned down. He was focused, but not in the way he normally was. It wasn't about the class anymore. It was about her. When the timer beeped at the end of class, a few regulars made their way over to her. Some with that, "Yo, what just happened?" energy, others just trying to be friendly. One guy named Devin, big, athletic, known for being a bit of a show-off, walked up and tried to joke it off. "Okay, for real though, are you like ex-CIA or something? 'Cause that throw was not beginner level." Tasha gave a tired smile. "No, nothing like that. You a black belt?" "No." "You trained somewhere though, right?" She paused, then nodded slightly. "A while ago, but it's been years." Devin kept pushing. "Yeah, but like, years where? You don't just walk in here and flip Jared like a pancake unless you've been in some serious training." She looked at him, then away. "Let's just say I've been in a few gyms." Devin whistled. "All right, respect." She nodded politely, grabbed her bag, and started toward the exit. Jared caught up to her just before she hit the door. "Tasha." She turned around. "Can I ask you something?" She hesitated. "Sure." "That first throw, you didn't even square up. You just reacted. You been out the game long?" Tasha studied his face for a moment. "Yeah, almost 10 years. He raised his eyebrows. "You sure?" "Didn't look like it." She didn't answer. He tilted his head, watching her carefully. "Look, I wasn't trying to embarrass you or make a scene. That was supposed to be a little warm-up joke, but you—" He stopped. "There's something different about you." Tasha gave him a small shrug. "I don't like being watched." He nodded. "Fair, but listen, we got a team dinner on Wednesdays after training. Nothing serious, just grab food, hang out, talk about bruises. You should come." She blinked. "Why?" He gave a crooked smile. "'Cause I think you got a story, and I like stories." Tasha opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked away, shifting her weight on one foot like she was considering just walking off. But then she sighed. "All right, I'll think about it." Jared smiled. "Cool, no pressure. If you show, you show." She nodded, then turned and left. Jared watched the door swing shut behind her. Devin appeared at his side a second later. "Yo, you think she's military?" Jared didn't answer right away. Then, "Maybe." Devin grinned. "You shook, coach?" Jared laughed under his breath. "Nah, I just got reminded that there's always someone in the room who knows something you don't. That's all." Devin clapped him on the back and walked away. Jared stayed put a little longer. He wasn't rattled. He was curious. There was something behind that quiet in Tasha. A heaviness, yeah, but also control. Like she wasn't just trying to learn how to fight. Like she'd had to fight and had learned how to do it better than most. But for now, all he had was a name and the look in her eyes when she said she'd been hit before, and he couldn't stop thinking about it. Wednesday night came quick. The gym had that post-class buzz. Bodies tired, gloves being unstrapped, towels snapping, sneakers squeaking on the floor. The regular crew lingered around like they always did after a hard session, joking and stretching, still sweaty from the circuit Jared made them do twice. But he kept glancing toward the door. "She's not coming, coach," Devin said, grinning while rubbing his shoulder with an ice pack. "You scared her off." Jared smirked. "Nah, she's not the type that scares easy." Still, when 20 minutes passed and there was no sign of her, even Jared started to second-guess himself. Maybe he pushed too hard. Maybe she didn't want to be around people. Maybe the gym wasn't what she needed right now. And then she walked in. No fanfare, no eye contact. She just stepped through the doorway wearing jeans, a simple black hoodie, and some beat-up Converse. Her hands were in her pockets. She looked like she didn't want to talk to anybody. But Jared noticed something. She came anyway. He walked over. Easy. "You made it." Tasha nodded. "Didn't want to be rude." "You hungry?" She nodded again, slower this time. "Depends who's paying." He chuckled. "We rotate. You're new, so you're safe. For now." They walked to a nearby spot just off Baseline Road, a small Korean BBQ joint called Seore's. Not too loud, not too fancy, just good food and better privacy. Most of the crew piled into a long table near the back. Jared made sure to sit across from Tasha. She was quiet, listening more than she talked, which worked out, because the rest of the table wouldn't shut up. Eventually, as plates started to empty and people peeled off one by one, it was just Jared and Tasha left. A slow track played over the speakers. Someone behind the counter wiped down trays. Jared sipped from his water glass and leaned back. "So, You ready to tell me where you learned to do that shoulder throw? Tasha chewed a piece of grilled pork, then swallowed. It's not that deep. I think it might be, she sighed. Jared didn't press. Finally, she spoke. I joined the army when I was 19, signed up out of boredom, mostly. Didn't really know what else to do. Jared raised his eyebrows. Army? Yeah, basic was whatever. Then I got sent to a base in El Paso for combat training. I was small, so they stuck me in with hand-to-hand instructors. I didn't mind it. I got good. Real good, Jared muttered. Tasha looked at him. That was a long time ago. He nodded. So what happened? She looked down at her plate. Afghanistan. Her voice got smaller. They needed female search teams, women who could go into homes and search women without causing problems. I volunteered. Jared's brow furrowed. You saw some stuff. Tasha didn't answer right away. It wasn't just what I saw. It was what I did, what I had to be. There was a pause. She didn't cry. She didn't look emotional, but her jaw was tight. I came back different, she said finally, and I didn't want to be near anything that reminded me of what I used to be good at. Jared sat with that for a second. But you signed up for a self-defense class? Yeah, she said, because I got tired of pretending I didn't still need to know how to protect myself. He nodded slowly. That makes sense. Another long pause. You're not like the others, she said suddenly. How you figure? You don't talk to hear yourself talk. You listen. Jared chuckled. Don't let Devin hear you say that. He thinks I never shut up. She smirked. For the first time, she looked relaxed. Just a little. Like maybe it felt good to finally say it out loud, even if just a piece of it. Jared leaned in, voice lower. You coming back next week? Tasha looked him in the eye. Yeah, I think I will. But neither of them knew. Next week wouldn't just be another training session. Something was about to go down at that gym. And this time, it wasn't a joke. The following Monday, Tasha walked into the gym with a different posture. Her shoulders were still relaxed, but something about her presence had changed. She wasn't hugging the wall anymore. She walked in, nodded at a few people, and found a spot near the front. People noticed. Devin gave her a respectful chin lift. Tasha. Devin, she replied. Jared saw her from across the mat and smiled to himself. He didn't say much at first, just kept things moving like normal, running drills, calling out instructions. But he kept an eye on her, watching how easily her body moved through forms, watching how her breathing stayed even when others were huffing and losing technique. And he wasn't the only one watching. A guy named Tyson, mid-30s, new to the gym, ex-wrestler build, cocky without the charm, had been watching her since the warm-up. Not admiring, more like sizing her up. During the break, he leaned over to another guy and said, loud enough for Tasha to hear, I don't care how good she is. The throw only worked because Jared wasn't ready. If I was on that mat, she wouldn't have landed a thing. The guy he was talking to raised his eyebrows but didn't say anything. Tasha pretended not to hear, but Jared heard it, and he clocked the look on her face when she did. He clapped his hands to pull everyone back in. All right, new drill. Pair up and switch partners every 5 minutes. The room scrambled. Tyson didn't move. Jared raised a brow. You good, Tyson? Yeah, he said, eyes locked on Tasha. I'll go with her. Tasha turned slowly. Jared gave her a look, not questioning, more like, you good? She nodded once. They squared off. The class moved around them, but it may as well have been empty. Tyson bounced on his heels like he was in a warm-up round. Tasha stayed still, hands loose, eyes calm. Ready? Jared called out. Tyson smiled. Oh yeah. He came at her fast, telegraphing his move without even realizing it. He went for a clinch around her waist, aiming to use his weight to knock her down. She let him come. At the last second, she shifted her stance, grabbed his wrist, and twisted his arm behind his back in a modified hammerlock that dropped him to his knees with a grunt. He tapped the mat fast. She let go instantly. Tyson rolled his shoulder and got up slow, jaw tight. Damn, someone muttered across the room. They went again. This time, he got more aggressive, tried to hook her ankle and press her backward. Bad idea. She sidestepped, used his momentum, and landed him face first on the mat again, clean, fast, effortless. He lay there longer this time, Jared walked over, crouched, and said just loud enough for him to hear, "You done now?" Tyson didn't answer. Tasha backed up quietly and rejoined the rotation. She didn't make a face, didn't smirk, didn't celebrate. She just kept going. But Jared saw it, saw the tension in her neck, the way her fists stayed closed even when she wasn't fighting. After class, most people cleared out quick. Tyson left without saying a word. Tasha was wiping down her arms near the exit when Jared approached. "You good?" She nodded. He needed that. "You mad?" She paused. "No." "Then what are you feeling?" She looked at him. "I didn't come here to prove anything, but I'm tired of people acting like I need to." Jared leaned against the wall. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "That thing you did, how you turned him like that, that wasn't just army stuff. That was more advanced." Tasha looked down. "I had a trainer after I got back." "A trainer?" "Old guy, lived in Glendale, taught Krav Maga out of his garage. No ads, no contracts, just word of mouth. He didn't care what branch you came from or what you did overseas. If you walked through his door, he trained you like you had to survive the next day." Jared nodded slowly. "Why'd you stop?" She took a deep breath. "Because I started seeing things I didn't want to see anymore. Every time someone raised a fist, I flinched. Not outside, but inside. I got scared of what I might do if I stopped thinking." He didn't say anything right away. Then, "But you came back." "I did." "Why?" Tasha looked around the gym. "Because I missed who I was before everything got buried, and I want her back." But what she didn't know was that the next person to test her wasn't coming at her physically. It was something deeper, something she hadn't faced in years. Friday evening brought a different kind of energy to the gym. The crowd was younger, louder, more cardio, less technique. Jared usually let his assistant coach handle the Friday class, but this time he stuck around. He had a feeling. Tasha showed up early. She didn't speak to anyone, just wrapped her wrists, grabbed a towel, and started warming up in the far corner. The regulars gave her space now, not out of fear, but out of respect, except for one person. Her name was Kaylin, late 20s, thin build, always wore bright colors, always tried hard. She'd been coming to the gym for about 3 weeks and hadn't made much progress. Her movements were stiff, her punches slow, and her confidence practically non-existent. Tonight, she was partnered with Dominic, new instructor, new ego, big guy with too much mouth and too little patience. "Come on," he barked as Kaylin threw a lazy jab. "You call that a punch?" She winced and tried again. Dominic rolled his eyes. "You're pulling back like you're afraid of your own shadow. You think anyone's gonna stop and let you hit them twice? Hit the damn mitt." Jared's head snapped up from across the room, his eyes locked on Dominic. Kaylin threw another punch, weak, hesitant. Dominic laughed, not even trying to hide it. "This ain't yoga, sweetheart." A couple of guys snickered. Tasha turned. She dropped her towel, walked across the mat without a word, and stopped next to them. Dominic looked at her. "Something you need?" Tasha didn't blink. "Yeah, switch with me." Dominic scoffed. "She's my partner." "She doesn't need a partner. She needs a coach." Jared started walking toward them but held back. He wanted to see how this played out. Dominic squinted. "You trying to flex or something?" "No," Tasha said. "You're embarrassing her, and yourself." The room was getting quieter. Kaylin looked down at her shoes, clearly wishing she could disappear. Tasha turned to her gently. "You nervous?" Kaylin nodded, almost ashamed. "Good," Tasha said. "That means you care." Dominic let out a laugh. "Come on." Tasha ignored him. "Let me show you something." Kaylin handed her the mitts. Tasha slipped them on and stepped back. "Throw it like you mean it. Don't think about your shoulders. Don't think about your hips. Just breathe in and let it go." Kaylin nodded slowly, threw a jab. Tasha adjusted her stance. Again. Another jab, a little harder. Again. Third one had snap. A few heads turned. "Now step in with it," Tasha said, guiding her foot gently. "Trust your body." Kaylin did. This time, the punch landed with a smack that echoed off the back wall. Dominic tilted his head. Tasha smiled at Kaylin. "See? That's what happens when you stop apologizing." Kaylin's face lit up, just a little. But it was real. Tasha handed the mitts back. Don't let anyone talk you out of believing you belong here. Dominic crossed his arms. You done playing superhero? Tasha turned to him, calm, controlled. No, she said, but you might want to start acting like you remember what it's like to be the worst one in the room. He stared at her, face blank. She stepped closer. You came in here thinking I was just the quiet girl in the corner, but you don't know what you're looking at. He didn't answer, not because he agreed, but because he couldn't match her energy. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was real. Heavy with something he didn't understand. Jared finally stepped in. Dominic, he said, voice sharp, grab the bag rack. Dominic nodded and walked off without another word. The class slowly went back to work. Tasha walked over to Jared. Sorry if I stepped on toes. He shook his head. No, you fixed what I didn't catch soon enough. Tasha looked over at Kaylin, who was now punching with a rhythm she hadn't had since joining. Sometimes the fight ain't on the mat, Tasha said. But just as things started to feel balanced, something from Tasha's past was about to catch up to her, and this time, it wouldn't wait quietly in the shadows. It was the middle of the next week when the letter showed up. Not an email, not a phone call. A real envelope. White, creased, hand-delivered to the front desk of the gym by a courier in a gray hoodie who didn't leave a name. Jared found it after closing, tucked under a clipboard near the attendance log. His name was written on the front, just Jared in neat, small handwriting. He opened it casually, half expecting it to be a gym supply invoice or maybe another sponsorship offer, but it wasn't that. Inside was a single folded sheet of paper. At the top, it read, Bellamy, former rank, Sergeant First Class, dishonorably discharged. Jared's breath caught. The letter didn't stop there. It listed deployment dates, incident numbers, a field report summary, heavily redacted, but one line stood out, printed in bold. Engaged in unapproved use of force against civilian in Kandahar. Internal review sealed. No signature, no return address. Jared folded the paper and stared at it for a long time. He could have ignored it, tossed it, but that wasn't who he was. If she was keeping something from him, it didn't mean she didn't deserve to be here. It just meant he needed to understand the truth. The next day, she walked in like nothing had happened. Same hoodie, same quiet, same nod at the front desk. He waited until class ended before approaching her. Tasha, got a second? She followed him to the back room where the mats were stacked and the air smelled like leather and sweat. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Jared held up the letter. She didn't flinch, just stared at it. Someone left this for me, he said quietly. Is it real? She looked away. Yeah. Why didn't you tell me? Tasha took a breath. Because people stop listening after they hear the word dishonorable. He nodded slowly. Tell me anyway. Her voice was flat. There was a house, a teenage boy. He pulled something shiny out of his waistband. We were told the house was cleared. I reacted. Took him down hard. Turns out it was a silver comb. He was trying to fix his hair. She looked at the floor. His head hit the corner of a table. He lived, but he never spoke again. Jared didn't speak. They said it was my fault, that I should have waited, that I should have assumed he was unarmed because the building was marked, but I couldn't afford to wait, not out there. She swallowed hard. After that, they made an example out of me. Internal review, closed ranks. No one would speak up. I wasn't special, just unlucky. She met his eyes. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a monster. I was just a soldier who made a call, one I can't take back. The room was quiet. Jared folded the letter back up, slow and careful, like he was holding something fragile. You still carry it, he said, every day. He nodded. And now you teach people how to stay alive without becoming someone they can't live with. She didn't respond. He placed the letter down gently on a shelf. I don't care what that paper says, he said. You walk into this place with more discipline, more patience, and more control than half the people here. She looked up, skeptical. You think they'd still respect me if they knew? She asked. Jared gave her a half smile. They don't need to know, but they do need to see you. Tasha furrowed her brow. See what? That it's possible to carry something like that and still show up, still train, still care. He opened the door. You want to lead next week's class? Her head snapped toward him. Me? Yeah, you got something worth teaching. Tasha blinked. You sure? I'm sure. She didn't answer, just walked out with a new weight on her shoulders, but this time it wasn't shame. But as she stepped back onto the main mat, she had no idea that someone from that past, the one she'd buried deep, was just a few miles away and closing in fast. The gym was unusually quiet the next Wednesday. People showed up early. Word had gotten around. Tasha Bellamy was leading the evening session, not assisting, not drilling, leading. Some came out of curiosity, some came for the challenge, but most came for respect. She walked in calm, hair pulled back, eyes steady, no notes, no clipboard, just presence. Jared nodded from the corner, arms crossed. He wasn't running this one. Tonight belonged to her. Tasha stepped to the center of the mat. We're starting with breath work. A few eyebrows raised, but no one questioned it. They followed. In combat, she said, your breath is the first thing to disappear. If you don't control it, it'll control you. 10 minutes passed, then movement. Simple drills, footwork, balance, reaction training. Nothing fancy, but everything sharp. Tasha's voice was low but clear, never rushed. She didn't shout, she didn't perform. She taught, and people listened. Even Dominic, arms folded in the back, didn't make a sound. He just watched. Halfway through class, the front door creaked open. Jared looked up from his spot. A tall man in a black hoodie stood there, not a gym member. Military haircut, hands in his pockets. He didn't move. Tasha turned slowly. Her eyes locked on him. Her voice dipped. Take 5. People dispersed. She walked straight toward the man. He didn't speak right away, just nodded, like they shared something unspoken. Then he said, Didn't expect to find you here. Tasha's jaw tensed. How'd you find me, Roy? Roy shrugged. Didn't take much. You taught me how to track people, remember? Jared walked over, cautious. We got a problem here? Roy looked at him. Nah, just a long overdue conversation. Tasha held up a hand. It's all right. Roy glanced around. So this is who you are now? Yoga warm-ups and breathing drills? Tasha kept her tone even. This is who I've always been. I just didn't have the space to be her before. Roy took a breath. You still blame yourself, don't you? She didn't answer. You weren't wrong, Tasha. We all knew that building wasn't secure. We just didn't say it. She blinked. Why are you here? Roy's voice softened. Because I needed to see it for myself. That you were still standing. She nodded slowly. I am. But I don't train to fight anymore. I train so I don't have to. He gave a sad smile. Then you're already stronger than the rest of us. They stood in silence for a beat. Roy reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Unsealed copy of the review. Got it from a buddy who owed me. Thought you should see it. He held it out. She stared at it, but didn't take it. Thanks, she said finally, but I already know what it says. Roy nodded once. All right. Then he turned and walked out. Tasha stood there, watching the door close behind him. Jared stepped beside her. You okay? Yeah, she said. I think I am. She walked back to the center of the gym and clapped once. All right, break's over. Everyone circled up again, focused. Something in her had shifted. They could feel it. So could she. Later, as the class packed up and the lights dimmed, Kaylin walked over to her. Hey, she said shyly. I wanted to say thanks. For the other day, and for today, you don't talk much, but you make it feel like I'm not wasting my time. Tasha smiled. You're not, and neither am I. Kaylin looked down. I didn't think I could ever feel strong. Tasha's voice was soft. You already are. You just gotta stop hiding it. Kaylin nodded and walked off, her shoulders just a little straighter than before. Jared stepped beside Tasha as she gathered her bag. You know, he said, for someone who didn't want to be seen, you've got a way of lighting up a room. She chuckled. Maybe I just needed a reason. He paused. So what now? Tasha turned toward the door, but her voice lingered. Now? I help the next one find their reason too. Because no matter where you've been, what you've carried, or what they think they know about you, you're stronger than they think. If this story made you think of someone who's carrying something in silence, reach out. Sometimes the strongest people say the least, but need the most support. Share this story with someone who needs to remember their strength.